Hello, I'm Scott McMurray. I'm your instructor from Medical Terminology. I wanted to post a short video to sort of guide you through the first week, just in case you're having any trouble or there's anything you don't understand. Sort of introduce myself, certainly, so that you can put a face with the name that you already have. I regret the fact that we aren't able to discuss some of these ideas in person since this is an online format. However, I will try to supplement with video information from time to time so that you can hear it straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. We are just coming up to the end of the first week of the course, and of course I want to make sure everyone is connected, knows what they should be doing, understands they have 3 assignments due here at the end of this week, and the weeks always end on Sunday. So let's move my face out of the way here and sort of look at the setup screen there, or the main screen for the course, which you should be familiar with by now. Note that there are announcements that will appear here at the top, and you can go to the news forum and see other announcements right over here. I will post anything that needs to be communicated to you all through the announcements. So this is a primary way I have to communicate, and of course that copies to your official OCCC email. If you read in the syllabus, you'll know that it's your responsibility to check this Moodle site as well as your email every day of the course, because that is going to be the only official way that we can communicate. You are always welcome to call me or email me at my OCCC email, and you'll find that contact information right here, but also in the syllabus, which is the next important thing I want to talk about. In the second section of the course here, you'll see the syllabus. There are 2 reasons at least that you should print this syllabus out and keep it with you. Number 1 is, of course, let's just open it up right now. Number 1, of course, is that it contains the contact information that you would use to contact me, to contact IT if you're having any trouble. All the policies, and probably most importantly, a very specific time-bound schedule that you'll find down here at the end of the syllabus that shows exactly when everything in this course is due. Unless an act of God intervenes, unless we have a tornado or an earthquake or a quake-nado, we will not deviate from the schedule, so you can rely on this. And if we do deviate from the schedule, of course, that would precipitate a mass communication via announcements to make everyone understand how the change will affect your work or your due dates. But other than those very rare instances, I will expect that you understand due dates because they've been published right here and they're easily discernible each time that you get online. Let me see if I can figure out how to move back on this without closing our... And I did close the course. That's fine. We'll just log right back on here. You'll bear with me just a second. Here we are. Okay. There is a Moodle mini orientation course. If you are not comfortable with Moodle and its functions, you could certainly practice here in this section. But most of you, by virtue of the fact that you're viewing this at all, means that you do know how to access Moodle, and probably many of you have Moodle in other classes or have had Moodle in other classes. This sort of component, even in on-ground classes, we have the same component. Tests are still taken online, so in that sense, your experience here should be identical to an on-ground course. I wanted to make you familiar with some things that aren't the same in every course. Week by week, if you go and look at the work that's due, and we're going to focus on week 1, see there's a total of 16 weeks worth of work, you will see that there are learning objectives. Well, those are useful to know, but not really anything you should study. Those are, in other words, when you finish studying these chapters, those are the learning outcomes that we hope to achieve. More importantly, the PowerPoints. So I won't click on this and open it. Those of you who already have, these are good devices for taking notes and for organizing your study. They're organized in the same order as the textbook, but they present that information in a slightly different format, in a summarized format. and many students find those beneficial for organizing their study. You can expect, if we've structured this course correctly, that the information that you see on the PowerPoints will be information that, not all the information will appear on every exam, of course, but it will be most of the information that does appear on exams, that we won't be testing on concepts that are outside of those PowerPoints. Certainly never intentionally testing on concepts outside of your textbook. By the way, your textbook, you've seen, it looks like this, right? You should have one of these right now. And if I can tell you right now, even though the syllabus requires you to use the 3rd edition, which is for the sake of currency and accuracy, I can also share with you the fact that there is very little difference between the 2nd and 3rd edition. So if money is an object, and who is it not an object for, you, rather than not have a book, I would hope that you would seek out at least the 2nd edition, which can be obtained very economically. Preference is, and in fact the requirement stated in the syllabus is 3rd edition, but I don't want that requirement to keep you, to encourage you to somehow try to attempt this course without a textbook. That is a foolish errand if you're trying to do that. You need to put a high priority on obtaining the textbook. These are open book tests. You don't want to be in a situation, do you, where despite all your studying, if you'd only had the book with you, you might have been able to look something up. Let me also correct a misconception you may have that just if you have the book that you'll be able to look up all the answers as you go. We're not quite that simplistic in the way that we structure tests. Of course, that would defeat the purpose of learning. While we do tests on the material, we won't often be seeing questions that you can answer with just looking them up in the index and finding the page number and copying the answer. Now, sometimes that will happen inevitably, but very often there will be a reasoning component to each question that rewards people who have actually studied the material, and does the opposite for people who at the last minute are sitting down and trying to look things up in the textbook. That won't work out so well for you. One other thing that I include and that can be very helpful and can actually improve your grade if we use it, in each week I have a chapter review. So here's self-review for chapter 1, for instance. If you open this up and look at it, you'll see that it is based only on the chapter that you're currently studying. There's a unique one of these for each chapter, and you'll see that they have a question and answer type format, a multiple choice type format, where you would have a question like this, and then the next slide will be the answer highlighted. If you do this in a PowerPoint type presentation, you can, or even print these off on little cards, you can make yourself a set, you can make yourself a study guide this way. I have no notion why I'm not able to move back on this, but it's not causing too much problem. Finally, every other week you'll have a forum, and many of you have already responded to this week's forum. This is a pretty easy one because it is all about you. I hope you know more about you than anybody else, and so you should be able to easily complete this form. Note my requirements up here, which I will restate every time we have a forum, and that is 250 words, complete sentences, and any other specific requirements. What you need to do in the forum will change from forum to forum. In this forum, you just need to respond, you need to use good grammar, and you need to meet that 250 word minimum response. There will always be a 250 word minimum response, but in subsequent forums you may find that there is a research component. You need to go out on the internet, find some information, or look at some information that's already been given you and comment on that. There are always some forums which are more interactive and some which are strictly one response from you. There will be some forums, don't let these confuse you, there'll be some forums later in the semester where I require you to submit your answer before you can see the other answers. This, I find, encourages some diversity of thought and some original opinions, which I dearly love as an instructor. Often, even though we may not realize it, If you get onto post and you read the 3 posts that are already there, there's a sort of a mental bracketing that occurs where you start to say, oh, well, my response should be sort of like that response. That's not copying, but it does sometimes unnecessarily bracket the responses, eliminating up front many possible good responses and maybe even many much better responses than the first few that were out there. So that's my reasoning when you come to it. And those are not as obvious how to post. I will give you special instruction when that comes along. But for this post this week, you say add a new discussion topic. You click on this button, and that allows you to make your posting. You can see that many of your classmates have already made a posting. Due Sunday night at 11 p.m. Well, what else? Oh, there we go. It's hidden by my frame. That's why I couldn't move back. What else? You have a syllabus exam. That's another reason. That's the other reason I wanted to talk about. Besides my contact information, besides the discrete scheduling information that you will look at, I'm sure, over and over again to make sure you know what to do, very important function for the first week is you have a syllabus exam. It's a short multiple choice exam. A few of you have already taken it and done very well, because why wouldn't you do very well? There are questions right off the syllabus. If you have a printed copy of the syllabus with you, you should refer to that. If you're trying to remember what you read in the syllabus, maybe not so good for this exam. Treat it like you would your textbook. Print the syllabus off, read through the syllabus once so that you have good overall comprehension and an idea of where things are. Then hop on there and take that syllabus exam. Many of the questions you'll be able to answer like that because you've read the syllabus. Maybe there's 3 or 4 where you say, no, I'm not sure, I better look that up and confirm it. By reading the syllabus already, you will know where those ideas are presented in the syllabus, and your ability to quickly access that information will be highly facilitated. If that works with a syllabus exam, stop and think, won't that work with your weekly tests, your quizzes, and your bi-weekly tests? Yes, absolutely. The key to doing well, even in an open book environment, and even a remote environment, is commit to reading through the material. That's an essential part of your learning process, and that's your responsibility. That's for whatever it's worth, that's my advice. You'll be happy if you do. You'll have a similar experience with every chapter test you take. If you read the chapter first and honestly think about it, you will be prepared to answer many of those questions ahead of time, and then only with a few where you feel like you need to look up and confirm the answer, which is perfectly acceptable in this format. It is not acceptable. Let me make an emphatic point here. It is not acceptable for you to sit down and take these tests collaboratively with other individuals. Even though you may be working with other individuals through the week, collaborative test taking is a form of cheating, because these are not intended to be collaborative. And of course, if I have reason to believe that that's happening, and there are some statistical ways of detecting this, then we may have to create a situation where you take a unique version of the test to demonstrate that your competency is in fact your own. So just be aware of that up front. This is not a group effort, and it's certainly not an effort where you print something off and hand it around. If that were to happen, of course, that would have very serious consequences. Any type of cheating has very serious consequences. We have to be serious about that in school, or in college and in university, or guess what? We may not keep our accreditation. And so if you don't think that you can be dismissed from university for cheating, you are sadly mistaken. Yes, you can. That's never been a big problem, though, from my perspective in this class, so certainly hope it doesn't become one. I've taken every precaution to try and make this material accessible to each of you individually, and to give you information, as I'm doing now, about the best way to prepare. So do your own work. You'll be prouder of yourself and more confident in your abilities. You're going to the health professions. If you were to, God forbid, hurt yourself in some way this weekend and have to go to the hospital, I think that you and I are both hoping that the person who treats you didn't get through nursing school by looking on somebody else's paper. Part of your competency and part of your ethical responsibility, especially as a healthcare provider, is to make every effort to gain that knowledge yourself so that you're competent in and of yourself. Finally, one more thing, and you'll have one of these every week, a chapter quiz. You click on the chapter quiz. Once you begin the chapter quiz, you will have, well, let's just look and see. It says you'll have 40 minutes for this chapter quiz, and it even tells you when it's due, and you can see 10 people have already attempted this exam out of the class. You have until Sunday night at 11 to do this. Now, you'll have a discussion question every other week, and on the weeks you don't have a discussion question, like next week, let's go on, scroll on down here, you can see you'll have a 2-chapter test. That 2-chapter test is cumulative over the 2 chapter quizzes that we just took. And then in the 8th week and the 16th week, as you see down here, in the 8th week and the 16th week, here's the 8th week, you'll have, for instance, a midterm exam. The midterm exam is cumulative over chapters 1 through 8. So what I'm saying, in other words, is you will have 3 opportunities to demonstrate your mastery of the material for every chapter. In the chapter quiz, the 2-chapter exam, which will contain some questions from over that chapter that you took the chapter quiz on, and finally the midterm or the final. Now, the final exam is not cumulative over the whole 16 weeks. The midterm exam is cumulative over weeks 1 through 8. The final exam is cumulative over weeks 9 through 16. So you won't, after week 8, you won't be tested on any of those first 8 chapters again, sort of start all over. One other thing, of course, you need to be aware of and thinking about now, the oral exam in week 6 that I'm showing you right now. You will see, you can click on this and you can see detailed instructions for how we will do the oral exams. The basic rundown is I will send an email out on the schedule that I have, or put a posting up, I should say, on the schedule that I have given you specific details about in that announcement. And when I do put that announcement up, you are free to send me an email and tell me the top 3 times on the schedule that I publish at that time. And I will make every effort to, I will serve you on a first come, first serve basis. So as we get closer to week 6, be looking for that. And I will honor your request if I can for the times. I'm a program director at Mid-American Christian University. I teach 3 hours. I teach in different schools because I have an eclectic educational background that qualifies me to do so. And so, and then in addition to that, I'm also pursuing a doctoral program. I'm taking 9 hours of doctoral work this semester, which is unfortunate, I can assure you. I don't mean to say by that I am too busy for you. That is never the case. What I do mean to say by that is I have to be very structured and organized in the way that we approach things like this. So I hope that you will work with the structure that I've imposed here. And there's 2 ways you can do that. You can use my official OCC email to contact me if it's an email communication that we need to have. That's very preferable. I'm very responsive to emails. I usually respond at the most within a few hours, almost never more than a day later. And then when we get to these oral exams, I hope that you will follow my format for this. I would prefer to call you if that's possible, just for the same reason. With many students calling potentially on the same day, the first time I tried to do this oral exam, I let students call me. I have no problem with that. It's just that it turned into a madhouse. I wasn't quite finished with this exam. This person's already calling in. They give up. I try to call them back. They're trying to call me back. That was an unpleasant experience that I do not care to repeat. And so those are the ways you can go by going along with my structure in this course. I think that will be good for you as well. We all need structure to understand what it is that we need to accomplish. That's why we've tried to be super structured on the materials you see online, on the syllabus. I will be very surprised if through this 16 weeks, if you're ever in a position to say, well, they said that was going to happen then, but it really happened then. This doesn't happen very often here in health professions, and especially in this course. We've worked out a departmental format that's very explicit. When we do the oral exams, you'll note that that is in 2 parts, and here are the word lists you can download for those 2 parts. Again, you can click on oral exam 1 here and read all about it, read all the specifics. Okay, that's probably enough for right now. I do want to encourage you to email me or call me if you have any questions, especially any questions, any problems that are preventing you from completing the work that you need to complete by this Sunday at 11 o'clock. As we go forward through the semester, I plan, as I said, to post some additional videos here, especially maybe about pronunciation or about particularly difficult concepts that I would normally spend more time on in the classroom environment, and try to move this more toward the individualized experience that you might have in a classroom. Although there are many, I take many courses. I've taken many courses online in my career, and I have taught many courses online in my career, and this is a very legitimate way of approaching it. I see we are at 22 minutes, and I said it was going to be very brief, so now you know I'm a liar. There's probably nothing we can do about that, though, except terminate this video now, and I will be talking to you again hopefully very soon. Have a great weekend.